Hello, hello, and welcome to the Lyons Den Podcast. We're back. We should be back with a working mic. So we're going to test that out real quick. Make sure you guys can hear me. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, the Lyons Den Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Lyons, and we're back to talk about all things Diarra from Detroit. And we are here to talk about really episode 4. I do have it a little, off in the, but that's fine. We'll go back and edit. But we are here to talk about episode 4, where Diarra is in her PI era. First, before we get started, we got to go over the house den rules. If you're watching, get your favorite glass. Today we have our alpha glass once again that we will be sipping out of as we talk about this shippo. So definitely share in the comments what you're sipping on as we get into all the things Diarra. And also make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me at the Lyons Den Podcast on everything, on my personal, Lauren.Ashley. We are talking about some exciting things coming up in the near future that I will talk about more towards the end. But as for now, let's get into the recap. Oh, like I said earlier, Diarra is officially in her PI era. This was, I think, the first time, she's now fully embraced that this is something that she is doing, likes to do, a part of, brings her excitement in her life. And so she's fully embracing that and embracing this odd investigation that has taken her in places in a totally different way, like a treasure map, which is wild to find in the city of Detroit. And has brought her this new excitement that she, although it's struggling and battling with her other internal um, goals, like wanting to be a mom, wanting more for her life, this seems to be the thing that is bringing her the most happiness and excitement. So, um, here in this episode, she's fully embracing that, and um, but it is still things that are going on emotionally are still there that we'll talk about. But first, we open the episode where Booker does in fact call Diarra and they make a deal where he's like, okay, I'll help your friend Chris and testify because he knows Chris was not there at all. But you must find the his inheritance. And so Diar's like, okay. Which, I mean, if you just found the pieces in half the time that Booker was looking for his stuff, I'm pretty confident that she would be able to find his inheritance. And so all right, cool. That's the deal they make. So then she gets started, um, where she pulls her friends together. Now in this episode, we don't see Aja, which is very interesting. It makes it very interesting for something that's said later on that we'll talk about, but she was not really to be found in this episode. Diarra's cousin has came into town because, like we saw in the last episode, Diarra's car was blown up as they were leaving her. And so that has really made her like have a little bit of PTSD. Hmm. And because I mean your car blew up. But a lot of people what they don't know is that she went and had that conversation with the captain. And so in her mind, she's thinking that maybe he's retaliating or connected to this case. She doesn't know who the enemy is. Therefore, she's having quite a struggle with how to deal with what's going on. And so she's trying to compartmentalize everything that's happening to her, and she's struggling, having a bit of a hard time. She wants to be present, but she knows she has to solve the case. So a lot of the scenes you see her going back to her happy place, which is danger, um, where she last felt safe, and those moments where she is pretty much starting to come to the head. And something that she says that I think is interesting, she's a teacher who isn't getting paid over the summer. Chris is in jail. Someone blew up her car, and now she's responsible for figuring out who killed Cartier's nephew, and essentially clear Chris's name and figure out this whole match situation. So these are all the things that she's dealing with at the same time. And I mean that's a lot for a person to do, honestly. Oh, so it just the I think showing that doing this work isn't easy, deciding to live this dangerous, unpredictable PI life does come with this baggage, does come with um a real emotional side to it that I think that even if we my favorite show is Psych. It's supposed excuse me, that's supposed to be a little bit more comedic. Like they don't really go into like what it how it is when you're doing this work and you made enemies. She's new. Someone's blowing up her car, but solving crimes and dealing with life on top of being present. Like all of those things, I don't think there's a lot of time where the character gets to pause and really just you can understand the toll that it has on them. So I like to see that, especially when it's a black woman being able to be vulnerable in this way, talk about it from a real perspective as well. So like I said, her cousin Raquiba comes into town because she's essentially there as a family spy because they found out what happened and they want to check on her, but also report back what she's doing. And also because I think because she's her being Diarra, that's not something she's just got a divorce from a lawyer. She decides to be a teacher. She's living in her mom's old house. Yeah, probably you're secretly judging her, which is why they have our cousin there, and she knows this. She knows that like okay, this is not from the best intentions here. So, um, but I think she's a fun character to introduce, and I guess as a way to replace her best friend. So she comes, Kreba, she's here, to help with the house, cook, clean, be there as her break. She grabs the team together, where it is her friends minus Aja, the cousin of Chris, and Raquiba. Y'all get together and try to figure out how can they solve Duncan DeSette's map. So first, they start with getting information about who is Duncan DeSette. And of course, you in Detroit, who knows it best than the street committee, right? AKA the man that be on the bus all the time that is old enough to probably remember like everything of the history of Detroit. Probably, yeah, is your best bet and who's your source. And so that's who she goes to. So of course they're like her friends are like, are you kidding me? Really gonna go down? But like, come on now. I feel like let's be so for real. The street committee be knowing. They be knowing like they know T, they just know how to hold it. And but then once you tell them you know something, they be spilling it all out like it's nothing, and it's actually crazy because that's the problem. We be holding too many secrets. But he knew the secrets of Duncan Dissett, and so he explains from his perspective that Duncan was a major gang member who's connected to the Purple Gang, and he allegedly stole money from wealthy Jewish people, and then he hid it somewhere for his family, and that's what the term duckies comes into the store, ducky dollars or something like that comes from. So they're of course they're like, really? Do you really believe this? Well, of course, Diarra understands that, like, with street committee information, you do have to go trust but verify. So she goes to verifies with the Preservation Council, and we get another guest star, Big D from Half and Half. Oh my god, I love her down. She is um she works at the Preservation Council, Historic Council or y- Historic Preservation building where they have history beyond the city. If I'm saying that wrong, sorry, but she is there, and it was just so cool to see her now in today's age be able be guest star, but she gives her version, which is that Duncan was a business owner who was she painted him in a more positive light, but he was eventually killed because they thought there was a connection with the purple thing, but it was a very different perspective on what his story was. So it makes it very interesting to see how that played out in how history remembers you and who's telling the story. So over time, as we go through the episode, we see that maybe Duncan was a little bit of both. And he could have been both. And that's something to remember later on as we talk about this episode. But after this is going on, we go back to Danger, which again, Danger is stuck on this very utopia farm. So he thinks, comes to find out that it is a meth farm, and he is back into this life that he was so desperately trying to escape. And there's a bit of resentment there from Danger, because it seems like this was his first drop with the group, so maybe he actually genuinely either one didn't realize that this was a meth farm, or two, he would be participating in it. But he, it gave that he didn't fully understand what was going on, and that he was kind of learning because he had now his attitude had completely changed from the girl that was superstar. His attitude had completely changed in interactions with her, so it gave that that was legitimately his first time realizing, "Oh, this isn't a safe space. You didn't just pick me or help me, back to health, cure me back to health because out of the goodness of your heart. They weren't good Samaritans." Uh, no, they knew probably who he was, who he used to be connected to, and they want to use him for distribution and whatever their big cause was, because it was hinted a little bit that they are doing something for a bigger cause. I'm not sure what that means or what this can go, but he does learn that this is Michigan Vanguard Farm. Again, they're selling meth, so it's a meth farm, and yeah, he's getting pulled into the world. So was this was this? I think it posed the question that I think I answered him already, but it wasn't by accident. He he was just picked up to go, and just live this quiet life. I'm I feel my theory is 100% they know exactly who he is. They probably had been dealing with his former boss. And if he was her, it seemed like one of her number one men because he was able to walk away, sort of kind of. That they definitely have some plans in mind, and they wanted to make him feel real good and comfortable before introducing him into this life. So I'm interested to see where this is going. I don't know if it's gonna connect to the rest of the story in terms of Diarra and her map quest. It might be an issue that goes into season 3. I'm not quite sure. Or something simultaneously going on. I'm here for it, actually, because I think that it makes the story more interesting when you have different plot holes. Just hopefully it gets closed properly so that it can feel like a complete story. But I'm quite frankly here for it. And maybe in some ways she's connected to the captain, which would also make sense. That would make sense because we still have that's not necessarily been closed, but just put on pause. So maybe that way it's gonna connect, and maybe they have this big farm, and that's something that he's funding. Maybe it's his organization. Am I onto something? I might be onto something of my theory. Maybe it is his nonprofit organization, and it's really a drug front. That, ladies and gentlemen, was my theory corner. You're welcome. So we're back to the house and the crew is together trying to figure out this map. They notice on the map that there's this drink recipe. So the cousin who is serving also as a comic relief, starting to feel or Quibla as well. They got like a little chemistry, which I thought maybe was going to Aja, but it seems like it's going to the cousin, which makes a little more sense. So he goes and like, okay, well, I guess he like to drink. Let me go ahead and make this drink. I think it was called the Dunkin' drink or something like that. So he makes the drink. It had this like very interesting ingredients. I guess they didn't. I don't know. It actually had alcohol, so maybe he didn't question it. They drink it. They're like, yuck, this is disgusting. Yuck, horrible. What is this? And they like, I don't know. I was watching it up. Was like, you didn't think that this could probably be like an invisible ink remover, but story has to unfold, and it was like, oh wait, this is not to drink. This is to pour over the map. Yes. Yes, I was kind of expecting them to kind of get that a little quicker because when might there be a drink recipe on a map? On a map. Fine, doesn't matter. But I'm glad that they got to the answer. So when they pour it on there, it reveals a whole new map with street names. So now they know where there's different locations on what they're looking for is X marks the spot where they can find hopefully the hidden treasure that Duncan had left as the inheritance to give to Booker. So X marks the spot. They find where it leads. It leads to and I might twist up these details. It was a little bit hard to follow, but it essentially leads to a club. I think originally it used to be a hangout spot for gang members that ended up becoming a convenience store. But there was a lot of paraphernalia left over from um, memorabilia that came from gang members that now a big gang member. Oh, and I'm sorry, right? It also used to be a bar. So it was a bar that was owned by Nazis, and a man named Cartier Kelly, legend has it, came in and took over the bar. It's been like essentially showed up, shoot him up, bang bang against Nazis by himself is how the story is told. Took over the location and has been keeping a bunch of gang memorabilia at that place since. Now yeah. So it was connected to a prohibition bar. It became a general store. Then it became a bar where Nazis used to go. He took it over. Now he has made it into an independent movie film studio. Okay? That's what I gather. I don't know what genre it was, but that's what I think it was called. So I think I have Burnmore Vulture Biker Bar. Now it's a biker gang, Cartier, who legend has it is a dangerous killer. Legend, but like legitimately, because as we see, yeah. So, um, when they get there, they show up. They think like, oh yeah, we can walk in, be normal, which I don't understand how they thought they could just walk in and they not be suspicious. But they find like they're there, they show up, and they are met with a guy with the gun, like, "What are you doing here?" So they're like, "Oh my god, we knew it couldn't be this easy." Comes to find out, it was a prop because he has turned it, like I said, into a film studio where they are recording their own, bootleg movies, essentially. Uh, BMF, stars shows, if you will, and that's where they see that Cartier is there, and it is his studio. So she, of course, she throws a distraction, but also because if we go back to the last episode where it's like you can kind of tell when I think that in her um narration, you could, I think she says, you can look and always see who's a killer. this is where it kind of calls back to that, where she looks at Cartier and is like, oh, yeah, they could be him. He could have did it. He could have been connected to this because he is sitting and he holds a bunch of these memorabilia that are connected to the map. And it's in the middle of this place. He might have been the person that shows up and, shoots up everyone because he wants to have access to that map and to that gold or whatever the inheritance is. So she was like, it's very likely to be him. But they dupe a bit to get past the crew to go in his office and look around, and she sees this fireplace where it has two little holes, notches in it, and it fits the key that she originally has that goes into the decks. So she's like, oh my God, perfect. Boom, this has to be it. She puts it in, it does not fit. So she's like, what is going on? Like, I can't figure it out. As she's figuring it out, a person comes behind her in change, chained up, and it is comedian Rel. Another fun, a special guest for the episode comes up behind her and is like, please, can you get me out? I need to go. Can you get me out? I'm stuck here. So she sees, oh my God, he has somebody holding them hostage. She really was going to leave him there. But then, as they're back there talking at the key in the office, there ends up being an entire random shootout taking place outside where another bike gang comes, a actual real gang, right? Because they do it on film, but an actual real gang rivalry starts going on. They start shooting up back and forth. I think they want to take over the studio. I did find it strange that, like, out of all days, today was the day that they would do a shootout, and I couldn't really understand like what caused it necessarily. But nonetheless, a shootout is happening. She ends up setting him free. While she's leaving the office or in the office at some point, she does end up with that Booker's best friend, who was also found at the scene. He had his pamphlet. She was kind of like, okay, that's information that I need to remember because remember she's a PI number. She's in her PI era. Okay, so she's paying attention to little things, trying to make a connection to solve the mystery. Yeah, so she got clocky. So, uh, she is at this point, they have to leave because there's the full shootout. So they're maneuvering from the guns and all of the noise that's going on, but somehow they keep surviving and making it. Because bullets are flying and bullets don't have nobody name on it. But somehow she just they got it. Okay, they get past it. In the middle of all this, Curtis finally calls her, and the guilt of it all just kind of hits her because she's now back thinking about him, like, dang, I get him out and I just owe him this, but also she was meeting up with him, so that's a bit awkward. So, but like all those emotions just hit her, and but he clearly hears it. Like, are you in the middle of gunshots? Sadly, she has to tell him she's going to call him back, obviously, and her cousin is nowhere to be found. Dips out. She's supposed to be on the lookout and the left, which I can't really blame her that much because it's like, what do you do when bullets are flying? She was literally sitting in the parking lot where they pulled up. I don't know. I think I need to, but I felt like at least she could have like pulled over somewhere in the book. Like I don't know. Like you just left Vietnam and gained territory and bullets flying. Like but you here supposed to be looking after your family member. Like, that's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, you supposed to be here looking and watching after the play. You just like, peace out. That was kind of crazy. Uh, so, they pretty much end up, uh, her best friend, her other friend, I cannot remember his name right now. So sorry to him, but he was like, I know somebody in this neighborhood. We can go to his house. Ends up being one of his ex, and his ex is a character from P Valley. Can't remember his name. can't remember. But he's a special guest from P Valley. They end up at his house. He is as they're there, Cartier realizes that, of course, film school, they named him film school, but Rel, the comedian, but the naming him film school is not in his office. Now he has sent an entire, all his men out to try to find him in the neighborhood. Remember that they are in this territory, so, and this is their neighborhood, so you really can't leave or go in and out without Cartier really knowing, because he's essentially has they're in his gang territory. So they're trying to figure out when they can leave. They see that there is a hairdresser there who's there to do his ex's hair, and they can tell by her body language immediately that she is going to snitch the first opportunity that she gets. So they try to stall her and come up with ways to give them time on how to get out of this situation and figure out what they're gonna do. But also they have Phil school here that they really want to try to look after. He's kind of stunned and in shock at the moment until he finally kind of snaps out of it and tells his story about how did he even end up here. And pretty essentially, he's a real film school director. He met him at a film festival in Chicago, and Cartier offered to help him with the movie. He found out he was going to do good work and fund it. He was like, "Oh, that's cool." It was because he thought it was his opportunity and chance to be able to create art free and be free and have that freedom reign. Well, that was a complete opposite when he got there. There was no budget, there was no days off, but for one day, and he saw that Cartier was very crazy and very difficult to work with. And when he tried to leave, he would not let him. So he was a hostage. We don't know how long, but he was there for a while. Not surprising because, as the legend has told about Cartier, if you are wild enough to go into a bar by yourself with a bunch of Nazis, you do probably do anything. Like the bar is, you ain't scared, baby. You ain't never scared. That's Cartier. So, um, yeah. So that's his story. That's how he got there. He's asking for help. And they really don't offer it, but he just ends up like kind of being like, "No, you're gonna help me." And so as they're telling the story, thinking through the I believe I'm missing a part about something that she realizes, oh, yes. They go back and revisit the fact that they had the key and it did not work. And oh, I'm missing something. Oh my goodness. Uh and realizes that she needs to go back into his office because there's something that they're missing in regards to why did it not open. So maybe there was something that she missed. She also does think about the fact that she saw Booker's best friend's funeral program in his office. She knows that there is a level of connection and she's trying to figure out why. So she's like, maybe Cartier does know about this map. He does know something. Maybe we're missing a piece because there was two. And I believe they reread the map again and it makes her think, wait a minute, one, maybe he was living a double life. Because the story that film school starts telling and talking about when he's with Cartier and also talking about his lived experiences that does kind of make her click and go back to the story of Duncan and where, okay, we don't know if he's a businessman, we don't know if he's a game member, but what if he was both? Maybe he was trying to legitimize like his business, but he still was doing things on the limo undercover, and he did actually upset some people, and that's how he was able to be, killed. But if that's the case, then if he was living a double life, what else was he not being honest about? Could he have, like, how far did the other life go? And so that's when they got to the theory that maybe he had two families, because if um you're one way with your family, your wife, your kids, but you live a whole nother life, you most likely men like that gonna have something else on the side that represent that lifestyle. And that's what they had, that was her hypothesis. And so that's where it started to make sense as to why there were two keyholes. So she's like, well, there has to be another another one, because maybe he had two sons, and they were both, and those both keys should be unlocking their inheritance. By this time, though, they recognize that the hairdresser has, and I'll pause here for a second. We'll definitely come back this week and try to clean up exactly what pieces happened. I don't quite remember, I don't have it in my notes, how they were able to piece that, yes, he has two sons, but nonetheless, they find out he has two sons, and they say, okay, now we need to go back, even though there's a shootout, and pretty sure we're stuck here. We still need to find a way to get back there. Like I said, by this time, they've realized that the hairdresser has 100% sold them out because there is a prize money. So they realize that they have, look, 30 seconds, not even 30 minutes, 30 seconds. This is where Diarra realizes that she has to kind of put herself in a lot of danger in order to get back there with a crazy person, and go back to his office and get them to go and find where the other piece of the key is. So as they're there, that they run off, leaving the back door. The other boys come in, and they come and they capture her. In this moment, this is another moment where her kind of more trauma catches up with her, because she's about to willingly do something very dangerous that could cost her life, like being captured by a killer. It's crazy. But she locks him in. She realizes, like, you know, this is not her life. And kind of how Duncan had two lives that caught up with him, this is now caught up with her. And she has to accept this as her new normal, her new life, like, that she's stepping into as a PI. She's in her PI era. So they ended back at the bar. She's having a conversation with Cartier. He's, of course, planning to unalive her. And then while they're talking, while they're smoking, her friends, including a film school, the cousin, go to the back of the office, and they go and they look to see if they have seen another chess piece or key. Film school might have also told him that he saw a white one, so I think they knew that it was there, but Cardi Bear just didn't know what it was. So they're back there investigating, looking to see if they can find it and see if they can open up the fireplace chest again. She's having a conversation with Cartier, and the Cartier is essentially ready to, like, kill her, because he's asking, "Why are you here? What do you want? But who are you with?" Like, because the director is missing, and that's what he really cares about. She's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." But she does end up being honest with him and says, "I'm looking for Duncan Desset's map." Of course, because he understands and he knows about all of the history with former games. He's like, "Wow, you actually think that's real? Interesting." And so that's where she goes back and remembers that she saw that nephew funeral booklet. It goes, "Hey, but how do you know Booker's friend? Like, how do you know him?" And so come to find out that it's Cardier's nephew, his wife's sister's son. And so he goes, "That's very interesting. I didn't think it was real until he came to me and asked me about it. And I really kind of brushed him off." Now he is no longer here. And so she said, okay, well, I'm trying to solve it and figure out who did it. Did you do it? And he's like, well, obviously not. So he said, okay, I can let you go if you go and you solve his murder. Excuse me. If you go and solve off who killed him, and what this was all connected to. She doesn't really agree, but I guess if you find out who set up Chris, you'll find out who killed him. So, um, yeah, because he says that like his wife is grieving, and he's like, yeah, I need to find out who did it, and so that's your. I'll let you go if you do this for me. So, very interesting how small world it is, but where you got a guardian angel looking out for you. Truly, because it was like you sitting here with a killer child. That's what I'm saying. Like, DR, if you're gonna do this, you got to learn how to fight or something. You got to carry or something like, or be a little bit more watchful. Because golly, like, leave this a little bit of luck. Somebody is looking after you. So she also asked him though, which I mentioned earlier on as we were recapping, that her car was um somebody blew up her car. So she asked him, well, was that you? Because again, at first she thought that maybe he had something to do with it. And he was like, what? No, that's somebody who was either very emotional, or I think he said very immature, or a woman, which I found interesting that he would say. Yeah. He indicated that it was either a woman or it was somebody who a bit emotional to do something like that. Because, and I guess that makes sense, because if I want to blow up your car or want to get at you, but maybe not necessarily get you, I would make this big gesture, blowing up a car, to send a message that I see you and I'm coming for you, or I'm watching you to scare you. So choosing that way to scare you is for a big moment. So something that you did, it caused them such a big reaction that they will go out their way to show you that you hurt me. Um, so she finds it interesting. I definitely think that was an Easter egg. On who could it be? We'll hypothesize towards the end, but nonetheless, Diarra makes a pretty, I think, simple excuse that I think she says she has to go to the bathroom. And so she goes to the bathroom, and really she goes into his office. In that office, they do find the key. They figure out that, like, wait a minute, if he has two sons and they're here to get their inheritance, you maybe can't do it at different times. You got to do it together. When they do it together, a vault at the bottom of the floor opens up, because again, this is when there was speakeasies and um is it prohibition era. So you had to have these different tunnels in order to sell your booze, because at that time it was illegal, and they a bootlegger tunnel. And so the cousin goes down there to see what they find. In there, they find this picture, and they're like, "Okay, this cannot be the inheritance. What is this?" And but by that time, as they figure it out, she sees it. They realize that they need to go because they are coming and knocking on the door. They go through the tunnel to leave, and they end up in a storm sewage coming out on the opposite side. They're still obviously in the neighborhood, and there's still a shootout going on in the neighborhood. And Cartier finds out she's missing, but instead of really trying to trace her and find her, he realized that he's like, I got confidence that she will find my nephew, because he's very confident in himself that he is going to get her, so she better do it. Like, even though you didn't agree, I know you will, because I know you value your life. And he knows about this treasure hunt, so he knows that, like, okay, like, you're not making this up. I believe you. Um, so he lets her go. He lets her go, but that's not the last time that we see this man. He was very scary, very interesting to budge. So, oh, and then one part that I forget was, as in their conversation, they were talking about, he does mention that, yeah, I know, like I said, he knows the story, he knows the legend, and that allegedly there's like $100 million that he had stolen, and that was the reason why he was killed. And so when she found him out, she was like, "Oh my god, well that's why a lot of people are going after him because $100 million. Oh, they're pissed. That's a lot of money." Oh, that's why they were so shocked when they saw a picture. But they were like, clearly, this is we gotta solve this. It's not that easy. This is a hint, but we know that it's actually money. So in this picture, though, she does notice that it says, "Now that you are together, let the games begin." Very interesting that a old gang member is doing the whole riddle uh to find money. I find it so hilarious because it's like, when did you have time to do all this? But that's fine. So she now has the next step in funding the investigation. They end up going, like I said, um, outside, already in the neighborhood. She had rented a car earlier that had been tracking her location. The car comes, so it was a funny little comedic moment where she's let this white guy in this getting territory. I think it arrived at in the nothing. He dodging bullets, trying to get out. And so they get in the car and they're on their way to the, like I said, because they are in a gang territory, they have barricaded anybody from coming in and coming out. She then has to pose as a person on the crew. At first they were like, "Oh, this is not gonna work. This is not gonna work. Like, what are we doing?" And then it ends up working. I guess it's maybe they're not the brightest in the bunch, but that's fine as long as it works. So that was a really funny moment to see them be able to leave and get out. Uh, so now the hunt is where it is this $100 million. Now they know how much it is. Yeah, that's an inheritance. Like, you could use the word inheritance for $100 million. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So who has it? Um, they have the two keys. I don't think are really gonna get into who's the other son. It might come up, but at this point, they just focus on let's get the money so they can clear Chris's name and get him free and get it to Booker, who can get his brother out of foster care. Child, you could do more than that. But so yeah, that's where we have left off, where we're going to probably pick back up at the picture and painting. So yeah. Uh this it was a lot. There was a lot of twists and turns and how we got here. For the most part, I was able to follow it, but who, where do I think this money is? I mean, I go back to the first episode where she's yet again underneath the streets of Detroit, hidden somewhere that maybe it's where he was buried, or maybe somewhere because he was a bootlegger and we're in a secret compartment underground. It's gonna connect in some way. Do I think that we're gonna find out who the other son is? Perhaps. Maybe the other son is the captain. I doubt it, but maybe. But why not? Could be. Just throwing theories out here. So we'll pick up next episode where they're not only is she dealing with her emotional issues of being a mother, she's a teacher, unpaid, trying to get Chris out, scared for her life because her car got blown up. Danger is still weighing on her. She's trying to solve a murder. She also has to solve two murders with who killed Cartier's nephew. She's gonna then try to find the treasure. and find out who's behind all of it. And then guess maybe who's the other son. All the things are what she has to deal with right now. And it just keeps building and building each episode. So, but she does understand that if she finds a treasure, she's finally gonna have the answer she's been looking for. So at this point, she's committed and she's ready to see it through. So yeah, there's a lot of questions that is theorizing that we can do. I think we should go back to the car situation. I found it very interesting that Cardi there said that he thought it was a woman or emotional. I'm curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are on that. Do you agree? Because I'm not like this is a wild theory, and I don't think I'm right, but I think it's very interesting that Aja was not in this episode at all. I found that very interesting, and maybe she because she has her hair business going on, and that she was just prioritizing that, but she's also very hesitant on the whole investigation, the one that's probably the loudest and like not wanting to participate. I don't think she would go that far in blowing up the car, but it was very interesting that she was not here. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else it could be that is still alive. If we've met this person, maybe it's Chris's mom and she blames him. I don't think so. I definitely think it's a person or people or someone we are not thinking about. Maybe it has to do with danger. Maybe it has to do. Maybe the girl has has been following. Because they do know who danger is. Maybe it's her. I don't know. Because I do have to think about. Well, why did you have to cast her? Like clearly, if you took time to cast someone who we all know, then they have a significant role in this story. They don't just necessarily go away. So maybe it's her, maybe I don't know. Like I think that's very interesting that is happening, and it's definitely someone upset. Maybe someone from season one. I don't think I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it was the captain. I really don't. I don't know. I think the captain may be more connected to where danger is than I think he is connected to that car. Because for the captain, he was like, hey, don't investigate, back off. She had. So I don't necessarily see why he would, he keep an eye out of her. I don't think that he would, there was no reason at this moment to do that and bring the attention back on himself. So that's why I think it's not even connected to that. Um, I don't know. Do we think this operation that Danger is a part of is clearly a front, a cover up? They are big. They have a lot of money. There was a lot of weapons that were going on. They've been doing this for a while. They've been able to keep the FBI away. Yeah, I'm sorry. My theory is the captain is definitely connected to this group and funding something because her work is very interesting, like their cause or their mission, very interesting there. So I'm curious to see what that's going to be about. And I want to say, I think that's pretty much all that I had for this episode. Um, and yeah, if there's something else that we forgot to mention, we'll come back next week and we'll pick it back up to talk about. But those were all my thoughts in notes that I had when it on Diarra from Detroit episode 4. It was a very good episode. I think at this point now, I'm ready for us to get some answers to the question. Hopefully, we can get some closure to the questions. Yeah. Who do you guys think did it? I don't know. Like, where do you think this is going? For sure, they gonna find the money. Somebody is hunting them down around it. So things are gonna get interesting. I don't know, guys. This is fun, but thank you guys for watching as we recap all the things. We'll be back probably Wednesday night to talk about episode 5 and get into the mystery a little bit more. We'll have some more theories because hopefully we can get some more things closed and solved and figured out. But until then, you can find me on all things at Lyons Den Podcast or the most active at the moment, Lauren.Ashley over on Instagram, YouTube, Threads, all the things. We'll be there. We will be coming back to talk about a different world. We have to do it. One of my favorite shows. So we will be picking that up soon. It's going to be coming out shortly. And we're doing some recaps on that. We're also going to do some recaps, I believe, on the traders. Yes, we have 2 civilians still going to be here while also maintaining our recaps with Diarra from Detroit. So look out for all of those exciting things. I can't wait to hear all your theories, your thoughts. Again, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch you guys next week. Have a good night.